Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a Philly native who can be found at the intersection of indie pop, folk, and rock. 2 years into his journey, and he's finding home in his sound more and more with every release. Welcome, Kai.
Thank you. How you doing?
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Where did your journey with music kind of all kick off?
Oof. Uh, it feels like yesterday, but honestly, 2018 is when it started. At the beginning of that year, we're going through a lot of tough times, and I've always been a huge music fan, and I was like, okay, I want to just try it out and see how I go, and I started there, and from there on, we got to here, and yeah, so.
When you first kind of started getting involved with music, was that from like starting to play an instrument, starting to write songs, starting to sing? Like where did the roots of it kind of all start? Like what aspect of music did you
Um,
kick things off
so
with?
so honestly, it really started, I want to say at a younger age because I've come from a church family. So from the ages of 3 to about 6, my great grandma would have me in the church and the choirs and singing the songs and everything like that. And at the time at that age, I wasn't a fan, but as I'm getting older, I'm like I'm glad that that happened. Um, so it kind of started from there, and then my mom is a big R&B fan, so I always heard a lot of different R&B singers, and so my family's kind of all over the place when it comes to the music, and I think that kind of shows from my music with where I come from because one second some are playing hip hop, some are playing R&B and gospel, and it's all over the place. So I can say it started at the age of 3, basically. Yeah.
So you grew up with music in that way. Did you like where did you go from that to starting to write music, starting to, do the artist thing and all that? How did that path kind of transpire?
Um. Well, from after the being in the choir and all that stuff, it kind of took some time because I was focused on other things. Being, going from middle school to high school, you kind of trying to figure out what you want to do in life. And I was mainly focused on sports, and that stuff didn't really go through for me. So I was like, okay, let me stick to what I know from since I was young. So I started listening to a lot of different artists at that time. I want to say, who can I say? Like Frank Ocean and XXX Tentacion, and listening to those guys a bunch just had me like, okay, these guys do different kinds of music, and that's what made me big fans of them. And that I started looking up on YouTube ways to write a song and how it should be formatted and different flows and different things of that nature. It kind of started me off. And of course, when I started, I wasn't good, I can say, but I'm glad that's where I started. And yeah, that helped me a bunch, especially leading up to today. So yeah.
That is interesting because XXX is one of the ones that I was listening to some of your stuff earlier, and there was I don't
Yeah.
remember which song it was off the top of my head, but I was listening to it and I was like, that name came to mind. I was like, this kind of
Yeah.
sounds like him, and it's full circle, You're
Yeah.
you're we're right there. We're right there with it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because it's often like I come from a musician background. Like I grew up playing piano. You
Okay.
get people that are like started in musical theater or,
Yeah.
musical families in that way. And
Hmm.
it's always interesting where it's like you just were like, hey, I want to write music. Let me learn
Yeah.
how to do that. Like you took it like it was like learning a new skill, basically. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't like it wasn't necessarily like this arc of, going from playing the instrument to learning how to write on the instrument to words to all that other
Yeah.
stuff. It was just like it just kind of came to fruition in a totally different way. It's that's why it's always interesting to hear how people start and how their stories
Yeah.
kind of have panned out.
Mhm.
What do you find most often inspires a lot of your writing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel as though what inspires outside of artists, and I'm thinking personal. Um, I feel as though different things that we as human beings go through in life, regardless if it's a sense of happiness or a sense of pain, that gets me motivated to want to write about it. So one of the songs that are out right now is Home Thoughts. And at that time I was in a really low point in life and a lot of things were happening and that was a sense of pain where I said, okay, I'm going to write this one out. And I wrote it in poem form at first and it went from there. And I said, I can make this into a song. So I made it into a song and I sent it out to a lot of my friends. They was like, I like this. I really like this. You should put this one out. But I was hesitant because of the different tones of voices that was in there. I used different octaves from low to the highest. And I was just trying out different things. And that kind of, I feel as though pain, happiness, and heartbreak, those three alone really help my writing a lot. So yeah.
I mean, that's the full scale from
Yeah.
like, hey, this sucks to hey, this is great, you know?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
feel like, you when you get the full, like you said, you get the full range there. It's like the happy stuff versus the not so happy stuff. And you know, going back to what you said about home thoughts, it's like you experimented and tried out different things, but it's like that's
Mhm.
the only way that you can really sort of learn who you are as an artist and start to figure
Yeah.
out what your sound is and what you like and what you don't like. And also it's just like that's I mean, something new and different, something you're experimenting with, that's sometimes what people love. And you had people trying to get you to put it out and now
Yeah.
it's out. So here we are.
Yeah.
Do you Do you find that with the songs that are, let's call it the pain and heartbreak side of the scale versus the happy side of the scale, do you feel like those songs take different journeys in like going from just an idea or a concept to becoming like full songs, or is it very similar across the board?
Um, it's in the middle. I feel as though that's a good question. I would say I would say similar. I could say similar because, you know, when I'm having those difficulties with whatever is going on, or not even just myself, because I write off of stuff that I hear from my friends when they're going through personal situations. So I try to make it to where it really relates and not just to not to just them, but me and even like universal. So if it can relate to them universal, I feel as though I'm doing a good job. But if it can't relate, then I really just be like, nah, let me put that song to the side, come up with a new concept. I don't like how that sounds, but then sometimes I might go back to it and write something different or even write more. So yeah.
So it's more of like we create the idea, we put it through a vibe check. If it passes the vibe check, then we
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah,
If it
yeah,
doesn't pass the
basically.
vibe check, we go back, we tweak it
Yeah.
up a little bit and go for vibe check 2.0.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
um if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would it be called?
That's a good one. I don't think it's new, but I would say because even now I don't know what my pure genre is, so I just
Hmm.
say alternative. I don't think it's new, but I would say alternative, experimental funk. I mean not funk, folk, uh, or alternative pop folk. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What do you think makes it alternative?
I feel as though none of my songs have one particular sound. And I was just actually saying this to a friend yesterday. I feel as though when you listen, even though it's only 4 songs out, each song is a different feeling and a different variety. So I have songs like The Hills Have Eyes where you listen to that and you can have your friends in the car and everybody's bobbing their head and it brings more of a rock kind of genre and venue and even feeling. But then you have songs like Imagination and Home Thoughts where if you're by yourself and all the friends are not there, that's the one you can play when you're not feeling up to par, feeling really happy. And I feel like my sound is all over the place, but it's still in the same box. Like it's in the same pocket, but it's all over the place at the same time. So yeah.
What about it do you think makes it like grounded altogether? Like what is the box that you think they all have aspects of or what they all share that kind of makes them like I guess in that case, what is the you flavor on the songs that make it,
Yeah.
your project?
Honestly, as plain as it's gonna sound, I would say it's the melodic bass acoustic. So anytime that sound comes in and people hear that from me, they know like, okay, I see how this song is gonna go. This is your sound. But when it's something like The Hills or even some other unreleased rock songs that I didn't release or had to re-release, people be like, "Oh, okay, this sounds different. I kind of like this one," or "Oh, it's okay." But more so when it's the acoustics, people know that it's me. So pretty much, I would just say the acoustics.
Okay. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm here for that. I'm an acoustic girl through and through. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If you had to pick, or is there a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Like
Best
your one
person.
song sample, what is the one song that's like your pitching song to somebody where it's like, hey, like you have one song to show them to make them be a fan of yours. What's that song?
Actually, my newest song, and I'm glad you said. I had a feeling you were going to ask that, and I'm glad you asked. My newest song called his name Culmination. So with that song, it describes a relationship that just fades away because it's somebody you're truly in love with, and your mind is your soulmate. But after time, as time goes on, the feelings just get lost and lost. But when the relationship ends, you're not in the headspace of, oh, I hate that person or I can't stand them. It's more so a peaceful ending. So I feel like that song resonant. It really does well with a lot of people because a lot of people are not so harsh when they're leaving the person that they loved or that they liked so much. So, and I feel like that one is me because when I'm done in a relationship, I'm not a bad person. I'm not like, oh, forget her, forget that person. I'm more like, okay, we couldn't make it, we didn't see the middle ground. Let's just end it here. So
Yeah. It's always interesting when things end in a normal note and it's just like
yeah,
it almost feels like it needs to spark something up. Like it just has to be there has to be some sort of like triggered response out of that or it doesn't
yeah,
or it didn't happen, like
right,
did I
yeah,
dream this? Are we really like at peace with this right now?
yeah,
I anger doesn't necessarily need to be the answer, but like,
exactly.
it's almost like there was no what's the word I'm looking for? Closure, maybe even like where
Yeah, there you go.
it's just like because you're like at peace with it, but it's also like I don't know, it's just like the way the stories go, those things are never like supposed to end that way. And so it's like you end on a
Exactly.
nice note, this feels wrong.
Yeah.
But I like that you took that from not just a like sound sort of perspective, but from like
Mhm.
a here's what the song is about, and it also just kind of encapsulates me and my energy, and
Yeah.
because it is like sometimes it's especially in early stages of being an artist, it's hard to define what your sound is. Like there might
Yeah.
be key, like I, for example, like I come from piano. I always, and like, with the exception of the last like couple years, have always written piano first, and that'll always
Okay.
be there. The piano
Yeah.
that I write it with will be the bass line of like that'll be the basis for whatever, however the song turns out. But
Yeah.
it's like, even beyond that, it's like there are things that you experiment with. There are new sounds that you try. There are
Mm.
new, song structures and ways to kind of phrase things. And, those things evolve and you try different things and you learn what you do and don't like. And it's hard to sometimes, from a sound perspective, put yourself in one box, which is why
Yeah.
everybody hates when I ask the genre question
Yeah.
of what is like your genre. And everybody's like, well, I don't even know how to define myself within genres that already exist. And you want me to
Yeah.
come up with a new one?
No one,
What are you
yeah.
talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you take it from that like other perspective where it's like it's almost like your personal thesis statement as an artist, where it's
Yeah.
like if you give me the opportunity to say one thing, this is the thought that I want to leave you with.
Yep.
And you went there kind of automatically, and that's that's it's just especially now with how music is, it's like it's just about enough of it's just as much about what you're saying as it is
Hmm.
how you're saying it. And
Yep.
so, we can't just, if you have a little bit more rock and a little bit more folk and maybe some pop in the middle and maybe there's a hint of that R&B flavor coming in, it's that might be all over the board. But if you
Yeah.
tell me what you're saying and what you really want to say,
Yeah.
then you'll get your point across and I'll jump on board or I'll say, not for me,
Yeah.
giving people the real weighted question there.
Yeah.
I like
That
it.
was a good one. Yeah.
um if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, I didn't even finish the question yet. Who would it be? And this is, I know we talked about this before we got on, and we're like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really ask the whole like influences question. And that's not what I'm trying to get at. It's like, if you were to take a few artists and like put their music in a little blender
Yeah.
and have yours come out of it, who are we putting on that list and what attributes from them are we taking to make that said blended concoction that is your catalog?
Um, yeah. Oh man. I was ready for this question. I was waiting. I said, I feel as though she's gonna ask this question. Um, so three artists that I always say, Bonnie Vera is
Okay.
one. Um, Lizzie McAlpine, of course, because she's from the city, so I'm a big fan of hers. And third, I would say, if you familiar with the guy Gaultier,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I listen to more than just that one song. I'm familiar
Really?
that he's in a group named The Basics, and I listen to them a lot. So I'm like a big fan of his. So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Because as soon as you said Gautier, my mind went to somebody that I
This
used to
you
know.
said no, yeah,
And I guarantee you 99% of people don't know a single other song.
yeah, yeah,
But now I'm intrigued. Now I feel like I have to do a deeper dive on them.
yeah.
So Gautier is just the guy is just Gautier, but he's in a band and you said that's the basics?
Yes, yep. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, from the like folk in indie folk pop standpoint, Bon
Mhm.
Iver, Lizzie McAlpine make perfect sense.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Those are right down the middle with like, I mean, Lizzie McAlpine is the like female Noah Khan in the way of like
Oh my gosh,
between
yes,
the two of
yes,
them,
yeah,
that's why like folk is like becoming pop now in a way. Like,
yeah,
it's not like that genre isn't transforming, but it's becoming a lot more popularized.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, but what sort of like specific aspects do you think from across the board you take from those, or like what is it maybe even that you admire or want to pull most from of your
Those three.
little trio?
Um, so Lizzie, I love her voice. I think it's amazing. Um, but I think as far as her discography and her sound, I love that a lot of her songs are very soft. And that's one thing I would love to kind of borrow or grab an influence from is the soft sounds and the maybe the producers she worked with or even working with her would be a pleasure. But I think from Lizzie, the soft sounds, I would say Bonnie Vera, that ambient feeling and the vocals, and I feel as though when you listen to any Bonnie Vera songs, it paints a picture. It's kind of like reading a book, and a lot of artists don't do that anymore like they used to. And I feel like he's one of the few that really captures that feeling. As far as Gaultier, he's more so. I love his last album that was under his name, and I think it was, if I'm correct, Smoke and Mirrors. And it's very experimental. You have one song that's super soft, and then you have songs like Somebody I Used to Know where it's super relatable, but it's kind of upbeat, kind of not. But then you have other songs like oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the song. And I listen to the album every day. But it's another song on there that's it's so many different sounds where he's playing the keys and he's playing the drums and there's so many sounds hitting you, but at the end of it, his voice makes it sound so much better because of the sounds making his voice what it is. So yeah, pretty much.
So it's about the vibe we're creating as well as just the power of what the voice brings to those
Yeah,
different songs.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, I think I mean that's pretty on brand with like folk from a like nutshell perspective of like, it's about it's intimate, but it's also like, I always am like I always feel like I need to put like 20 different things in there to make it feel like it's like filled out. But it's really like,
yeah,
and then you get like Lizzie McAlpine who's over here with this like acoustic guitar and that's it. And just her
yeah.
and like maybe a few harmonies behind that. And then it's like, how is this like a full production and
It,
this like sounding so professional and
she
real
make
like
it she
this
make it look
when like,
easy.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, dude, like, come on. So, but yeah, and I mean, I think like that raw, like vocal thing is like, it's always easy to, when you add those other layers, you can kind of hide the vocal a little bit more
Yeah.
sometimes. And, she kind of gets away from that. And,
Hmm.
Bon Iver is that really spacious, atmospheric sort of vibe. And it's the things that we, chase after and long for, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
um, what is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say it's simple, but honestly, I would say going to the gym
Okay.
and doing, even though I know you said one, but going to the gym, doing trail walks with my friends, I feel like those things you have to experience just to get out of the headspace of music, music, music. Sometimes you got to focus on life and grab inspiration to write more songs and you know make those songs happen in order to have fun with it. Because even though a lot of these artists are signed and I'm sure a lot of them are having fun, but maybe a lot of them are not because they're not experiencing life and they're like, oh, I got to get the album done, but they haven't went through anything yet to get that album. So that's why some artists take longer. Some just give us what they want right there. But those that take longer, I really look at those artists a lot because it reminded me like, okay, I love music, but I also gotta live life. I also gotta be with family. I also gotta hang with friends and talk to them and do different things. So yeah,
That just brought me back to probably about this time, like 2 years ago, when I first
yeah,
started doing the podcast. And it was literally like the fourth person I had on the podcast. And there was this guy who was talking about his artist name is Mars, and it's like his
okay,
initials. He's from South America, but he was talking about how very same idea where it's like you have to just like music isn't everything, you have to live life. And he had some comparison to how like I don't know if he if it was like a desired experience to experience life this way, or if it
Mm.
was a commentary or he wrote some song about it, whatever. But he was talking about cows and about how cows are just live in their own little, like they just, I mean, they just chill outside all day, eat grass, and
Yeah.
live life. You know, it's like
Mind their business.
you need
Yeah.
to, yeah, you need to just kind of, not stop and smell the roses, but like, live life. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
it's exactly right. Like it's the, you write what you know. And if you don't know anything, what are you going to write about? And so you have to have those experiences. It's come up on multiple different conversations I've had with artists on here.
Mhm.
And it's a thing. It's like, you have to, if you don't have anything to experience, you're not like letting yourself evolve as a person. And then you're just kind of
Mhm.
staying stagnant musically as well, because it's
Yeah.
only as we grow as individuals that we can grow as artists and creatives and songwriters and all those other facets to who we are as people.
Hmm.
So, that, yeah, I have not thought about that conversation since then. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That just sent me right there. I was like, the cows. But yeah, no, and yeah, that's awesome. And the trail walks, I mean, it's always good to just be outside.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Even if it's the same one.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like it feels like a chore to like go either walk there or get in your car and go, and it's like, is
Hmm.
it really worth it? And then you get there and it's like, okay, wait, even if I'm here for like
Yeah.
5 minutes, this is a vibe and this is worth it, and this is the break that I kind of needed from everything else.
Yeah.
So, um this is the point in the podcast where I take a question from last week's artist for next week's artist. So the question from last week's artist was, if you had to learn a new instrument, what would it be?
Um, well, how the interview has been going, I feel like a lot of people would know that one, but I would say the acoustic. I actually bought one and
Okay.
I started to learn it and I started taking classes because I feel like going forward, once I finish my first album, I want to go on shows and actually play and not have to call my friends and be like, yeah, can y'all play with me tonight since I need somebody to play. But I want to get to that point of independency where I can play for myself and it's just me. So I would say the acoustics is yeah number one.
Do you have any like weird like ones that it's like, have you ever, I don't know if you've ever used it in a song like production wise, or just something where it's like, there's no practical use for this, but if I could just like pick this up and be good at it, I would totally do so.
um, what is that instrument? And you kind of have to sit down and play it. I forgot the name of the instrument. And you have to sit, you can't lift it up because it's like super heavy, but you have to sit down and like it's like this, and they play it this way. I
The
forgot the
harp?
name. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
couldn't think.
there's no hold in that thing. That thing is
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah.
The harp would be sick though. I kind of forgot about the harp.
No, I love that sound. It's
That's
amazing.
Yeah, that'd be really dope.
Yeah.
Um, what is your question for the next guest, or the next artist?
Basically, the my next question will be touching on the question that I answered for you was are you making sure that you're living life in order to make great music going forward? Like, are you not like make sure like are you not just oh music, music, music? Are you taking the time to smell the roses, like you said, and hanging out with friends and trying to make moments so you can make memories and make art out of it? Or are you just putting yourself in the music 24/7? So,
We're motivating the people now to get out of their house, get out of their studio
yeah.
space, and
Yeah.
just do life for, a little bit.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Experience things, then you can write stuff. Don't write
Yeah.
stuff without experiencing things.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
Ooh, that's a good one. Far as where I'm based, I feel as though just doing alternative alone sets me apart. Because when I show other artists, because I have a lot of artist friends within the city, but a lot of them are um, singers or mainly rap, but they appreciate the sound that I do because they always say, "Yeah, man, I really like that sound. It don't sound like everybody else." And they're showing me their music, and they was like, they always say, "You're really different from the other artists." So I feel as though doing folk and mixing it with um, alternative and pop really set me apart from artists in the city. But far as worldwide, I would say I'm not scared to be vulnerable in music. And I feel as though a lot of artists say that, but I think they just say that just to make it sound good. But I'm like, I'll say, like, I wouldn't mind giving away information that's going bad in my life within the music. And I feel like a lot of artists are scared to do that. And I feel like that sets me apart. I'm not scared to do that at all. If something happened to me or around me, I'm putting it in the music and I'm making it into art. And even though it may be sad or it may be happy, but I'm making it art. So when somebody else hear it, they're like, this is beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely commendable in its own way. I feel like I might be on that list of like I might say it or I might try and convince myself that that's what we're calling vulnerability, but
Yeah.
you know, because it's just sometimes it's just a little too close to home. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's just me, but I mean the authenticity and the honesty and the rawness. I mean, the
Mhm.
raw is a built-in thing with anything that has folk influence to it, and so it's like you. I mean, it's the storytelling and it's the emotive authenticity. And so
Yeah.
like it's like leveling up within your little corner of the genre landscape in its own way because you're allowing yourself to be fully transparent with it. And that's a good thing that you should definitely hold
Yeah.
on to because like you said, like it's there's saying it and then there's doing it.
Doing it.
And so let's stay doing it.
Yeah.
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 What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
um, Basically that I would say with the vulnerability and like you said, being authentic, I feel as though, you know, the society we in because of social media and all that stuff, a lot of people are scared to be themselves because it may look corny or it may not be the cool thing to do, but I want to have the impact where people hear my music and interviews like this that they're like, oh, he's actually honest. He's telling the truth. He may be a sad guy or he may be super nice, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel as though that's the impact I want to have when people are listening to my music or becoming supporters and fans of my music. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it's if you wear your heart on your sleeve with the music, it's like it's not only and I think that's a like I don't know if this is the right way to put it, like, but like a faster gateway to going from getting them to be like casual listeners to being like actual fans. Because the
yeah,
more that people can learn about you, and I mean, the music is the first way because
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's what they're going to find you for in the first place. If
Mhm.
you're putting you and a lot of you already into the music itself, it's like they're going to be able to take away more of who you are than the average song and get a, they're going to understand your perspective and learn more about who you are. And so then that'll get them on the bandwagon faster.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
It's been there. It's been there forever. It's been there since I was born. Like I said earlier in the interview, a lot of my family members, more so my mom's side, is the R&B, the gospel. My dad's side is the rock and the folk and the pop. So that's where that comes from. But even like my great grandfather, he's the main inspiration with the folk thing because not to get too much into it, but like my EP I'm releasing on October 4th. The title was "Does Life Get Easier?" And so that was just based off of the mindset that the things that he's been through. He's 88, so he's been through a lot of stuff, and I talked to him a lot to where I kind of use situations that he went through in his life to put it in my music. So I feel as though why not? I think it's just I can't get away from music, and I feel like it's the best thing to life that life can offer, or at least one of the top things that life can offer. So yeah,
Doesn't get much better than this, does it? Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah, and I mean it's cool that you've taken it from like a connecting and translating that through music in that way, and telling your family
yeah,
stories and stuff like that. And it's that's
mhm,
I mean that's how people, that's how we learn more about each other when you're creatively involved in it, obviously. And it's how we just kind of, I mean, music is the universal
mhm,
language, as cliche as it is, it's true. And it's, you can convey a lot of different things in music in ways that people maybe wouldn't have heard otherwise or understand better because of the way it's packaged. And it's it's a really cool communication tool in its own way, you know.
yeah, yeah. It's a good experience. Every day I wake up, I'm proud. I thank God, and first thing I do, I don't even go to the bathroom first. I'm like, oh, let me play some music. That's the first thing I do. But I'm like, yeah, I love music. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. You can check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.